I see it is you've got two choices. You can either keep pretending like nothing bad's ever gonna happen to you, and then when it does, you're saying, uh-oh, or you can get ahead of what's coming so that when it does, not if, you're ready for it. And you're sitting pretty, sipping on Mai Tais next to the pool, working on that Caribbean suntan, because you got it covered. So folks, it's time for you to learn the truth about money. It's time for you to take back control of your money so that you are ready for what's about to happen. By doing that, you're setting yourself up for absolute success. No matter what comes your way, you're ready for it. And that's what I want for you, and I want to help you with that. So go to chrisnaugle.com and sign up for the Wealth Webinar. We do them every Wednesday at 1 p.m., and you need to be there because it's time.
For over 90 years, we've been crash testing our cars in the tireless pursuit of automotive safety. At Volvo, safety's been first since 1927. We've saved millions of lives with the invention of the three-point seatbelt in 1959. At Volvo, we've made driving safer for you and them. Visit safety.findlayvolvo.com to learn more.
So they say if you give a man a gun, he'll rob a bank. But if you give a man a bank, he'll rob everybody. The good news for you is Private Money Club runs solely on peer-to-peer relationships, which means no banks allowed. So finally, there's a community for real estate entrepreneurs where it is truly a win-win solution. This community is a place where you can connect with other lenders and other borrowers, and the end result's massive growth for you. You get to build your real estate empire, and you get to do it solving other people's problems. So if that sounds like a place you want to be, well then join us. Go to privatemoneyclub.com/Kelly. And if you want $500 off, just add the code Kelly500 and I'll knock $500 off the Premier membership. We'll see you on the inside.
Welcome to the Kelly Cardenas podcast, where attitude is everything. On today's show, it was great because I reached out to this young man on Instagram. I had seen his story. It inspired me huge. It kills me, though, because the more and more that we're going to become friends, the less and less excuses that I'm going to have in my life. I like to have excuses sometimes. I like to say, well, it was because of this, because of that. But his whole platform is adapt and overcome. And when you hear about some of the things that this man has overcome, it has been absolutely unbelievable. I mean, the biggest one for me is having 4 children in 5 years. So I want to say that the real superhero, as he said, was his wife. But this man, young man, is a firefighter, an American Ninja Warrior. He's an author. He's a speaker. There is nothing he can't do. He became an amputee in 2018 and continued on in fighting fires. He is all over the place speaking to children through children's books, speaking to companies, organizations all over the country. And there's the American Ninja Warrior watch party in 3 hours from right now. So we got to have the podcast done by then. But he's an absolute superhero, even a greater heart than all the things I just said, even a greater heart as far as a friend and a connector. So please welcome to the show, Mr. Gary Weiland.
Thank you very much, Kelly. Appreciate you having me.
How you doing, my man?
Man, I'm doing great. I have no complaints, my friend.
Can you give us some insight to American Ninja Warrior? I know you can't tell it. Can you tell us anything about it? Do you have a gag order on you right now?
Well, I will tell you this: the finals are tonight.
That's all you could tell me right now. That's all. So
yeah, I did sign a non-disclosure agreement, so that $1 million, it's probably not worth it to give you any insight.
I won't tell anyone at all. So on American Ninja Warrior, was this an episode where you're competing against other amputees, or is this just you're thrown into the pot and you guys are going at it?
Oh, I'm the only amputee, sir.
What?
There's been a few in the past, but no, I'm the only one competing against able-bodied guys, and a lot of them are half my age. So yeah, it's quite a challenge.
Oh my gosh. So take us back to, you're an Illinois guy, right? And so you're an Illinois guy transplanted to Texas. I won't hold that against you. You did say that you're a Dallas Cowboys fan, but my buddy Torthel is going to be super happy. But I believe that the reason why God has unconditional forgiveness is because there's Cowboy fans in the world, and he's going to need to forgive you before you get to heaven. But let's take it back to young Gary. I mean, was young Gary a superhero all the time? Where did this mentality of adapt and overcome come from?
Man, I mean, if we're gonna go back, I grew up very humble beginnings. I grew up in a mobile home park. My dad was literally, he was a garbage man, worked for the city, and my mom was a part-time crossing guard. We didn't have any money. I had an older brother, until my parents bought a house. It was about 900 square feet, one bedroom. So until they put some plywood in the attic and threw some carpet down, like there wasn't a whole lot there. So it was hot in the winter, hot in the summer, cold in the winter. And, growing up, I found myself sleeping on the couch in the living room most of the time. So we didn't have much growing up. But, my parents always instilled in me that I can be whatever I want to be, and I can do whatever I want to do. Don't let nothing hold me back. But didn't necessarily know how I was going to do that. I just felt like something big was going to happen to me someday. And so I actually kind of found myself in a pool hall at about the age of 12 and 13, started kind of making my own money, and found myself into some other trouble that kind of goes along with that kind of lifestyle. And, luckily I got through high school, and found my wife shortly after, and she pretty much straightened me out from there. But growing up was a struggle, man. It was a real struggle. I did have that older brother. He was 5 years older than me. He was about 6'2", 230, and I was a late bloomer. So when I graduated high school, I was 5'5", 110.
Whoa.
Yeah. So, but I was real competitive. I wanted to beat him at everything. And so basketball was my love. And so we'd go out back and play on our dirt basketball court, because it was just in the yard. And I just kept jumping to try and block him. I wanted to beat him. And I think that's kind of where my jumping ability came from. And so by the time I was in high school, I could touch the rim, and I was only 5'5". But anytime I got close to beating my brother, he would just grab me and put me on the ground and sit on me.
So Gary, when you grow up in those kind of realms, a lot of times people will either get super angry or they look and say, hey, I want to make it better. Which one were you?
Yeah. So one thing that my parents instilled in me was faith in God, faith that, everything happens for a reason. We're here for a purpose. And so I always had a good attitude. I always had a positive attitude about life and all that. So I decided that I was going to do something good with my life and see what happened. And, after high school, I did grow into being 5'10", about 160 pounds, and, halfway athletic. I could really dunk a ball at that point, believe it or not. But, it's just something that they instilled in me, that I could do whatever I want to do and be whatever I want to be. I just had to let my body kind of catch up to it.
So Gary, there's always the theories, right? And mentality, right? And I love that with your parents saying that you could do anything that you put your mind to, and they kept encouraging you. And then there's a lot of times where we get hit with circumstance in life, right? So you got married at 21 years old to your beautiful bride now. You had 4 kids in 5 years. Things are rolling. Take us to 2018, and when those things get tested.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I worked in the retail world for a while through our young married life. And in 2011, we had found our way down into the Dallas area, and I was working as a retail manager, and my son came in and said, Dad, when I grow up, I want to work here with you. And I thought, what am I doing? I've been given these gifts and these abilities, and I felt like I've been squandering them. So I actually went home and talked to my wife about it. I said, look, I got to do something different. I'm making good money, but this is not how I'm supposed to live my life. This is not my purpose. And so we prayed about it. And we thought, okay, what can you do? What do you want to do? And I thought, well, I want to serve my community, and I want to be able to support my family. And so I looked into the military, and that just wasn't for me. And I looked into the police department, that really wasn't for me. And then I saw a fire truck go by one day, and I thought, what do firefighters really do, other than fight fire? And I looked into it, and, they go to car wrecks, they're EMTs. And so you have to be really physically active and mentally, you have to have some form of intelligence, right? And I thought, this is for me. This is what I want to do. And so I quit my job as a retail manager and put myself through fire academy and EMT school in 2011. And fortunately got hired on in Denton, Texas. It was an unbelievable story how it all worked out. But flash forward, 7 years, 2018, hot and heavy into my firefighting career. And, I find myself in the hospital with my knee swelled up to the size of a bowling ball. And, 3 days later, it's amputated. So my life got flipped, turned upside down, man, real quick. Like I said, I was just dunking a basketball, running down the football field. And it was quite a shock to me and my family and my fire family and everyone else.
So Gary, take us to that point though, because I was just talking with Cam the other day, and Cam Ayala, and we were talking about it. And there's a lot of people out there that this has never happened to. There's a lot of people out there that this will never happen to. You can say never in your own life, but there's a large portion of people that this will never happen to. Yeah. So they can't understand the emotional aspect, or they can't understand the mental part of it. And again, when we talk about adapting and overcoming, it's all good in theory. It's all good in, hey, little Gary, you could do anything. And then you're faced with this. Do you question it all, or do you just go back to that foundation of mom and dad, or is there a human side to you?
Oh, brother, it was bad. It was real bad. My legs are my world, like fighting fire, jumping above the rim, like my legs are my world. And so when that was taken from me, being an amputee, when you lose a limb, it's a lot like losing a close family member, like a spouse, and it's really hard to describe, but it was a part of me for 39 years. And now it's all of a sudden gone, where I can't, I counted on it every day. And now I wake up every day and it's not there. And I'm reminded of it, every single day, because I have to put this leg on. And so those first few months were awful. I mean, I slipped into a very deep depression. And I mean, you want to talk about the depths of hell emotionally and mentally, man, it was rough. Like as much pain as I was in physically, the mental side of this thing was 10 times worse. And I'm a faithful guy. I believe in God, but the human side of me was like, why did this happen to me? Like, I really felt like, firefighting was my purpose, my passion. This is what I live for. I'm doing what God wants me to do. And now I can't do that anymore. So why did this happen to me? And so it was a struggle, man. It was the biggest mental struggle of my life, hopefully. Right. And so, fortunately, it didn't take long that I have a wonderful wife, and she put some perspective on me and made me realize that it could be worse. I could have died during the surgery, and some different things have happened. And so, we started talking about what life looks like for me, what the future looks like for our family. And so when I was having really bad days, which was a lot of days, I started noticing that my family was having bad days, lots of arguments, lots of fighting. It was a really negative environment. But on the days where I wasn't in a whole lot of pain, For whatever reason, I was in a better mood. Guess what the mood in the house was? It was more positive, and there wasn't as much fighting. They're all teenagers at the time, so there's still some of that. But a lot of self-reflection, and was like, you know what am I doing? I am a father. This is my family. What do I want their future to be like? And my perspective, my attitude directly affected theirs. And I thought, you know what? No, this is not going to beat me. This is not going to beat my family. I'm going to do everything I can to beat this. And not only that, but I want to get back to being a firefighter on one leg. And, it just kind of lit a fire in me once I started changing my mindset, once I changed that perspective into something positive. It's amazing what happens to you when you start thinking positively, because other amazing, great thoughts started entering my mind. And one that really hit me hard one day, I vividly remember it. And I was sitting on the couch and I was thinking, that just that flash moment of, man, why did this happen to me? And then instantly I thought, this didn't happen to me. This happened for me. Mm. And it struck a nerve with me, Kelly. And I was like, what? Where did that come from? And so then I just kind of ran with that. And I thought, okay, maybe this did happen for me. And I'm going to use this not only for me and my family, but I want to use this to help other people. How can I use this to help others? And so once I started kind of going down that path, it just, everything started getting better and more positive, and good things started coming my way. And it was just like real addictive. And I just wanted more of that feeling, And so it was pretty wild. The whole process of, how was I going to get back to fighting fire? My chief was on board. He was, we got you. What can we do to help you? Fortunately, my city manager, city council, the mayor, like everyone had to be on board with this, because, we've never had an amputee firefighter before. So they're like, what does this look like? But I think my character kind of before this lent a helping hand with all this, because I feel like if I wasn't who I was before, they may not have been so supportive and encouraging, but, maybe not. So it's important to have a high moral character, your integrity and who you are, because you never know when you're gonna need that. And I started down this path, and they're like, okay, what can we do to support you? And I thought, well, I need to make a plan. How does this work? What am I going to do? And so I kind of started working backwards of like, okay, if I'm going to be a amputee firefighter, I have to be able to climb ladders. I have to be able to stand on roofs. I have to be able to drag hose and all this kind of stuff. And then I started kind of thinking, wait a minute, I don't even know how to walk. How do I walk? Kelly, do you remember learning how to walk?
No, this is a conversation that I was having with James Dixon the other day, because I know he was instrumental with you as far as working on your gait, working with that. Can you go into it? Because this is a part that we don't hear. A person out there that hasn't lost a limb, is not an amputee, whether it be, above the knee or below the knee. We don't realize some of these things. You have to learn how to walk and how to connect with the ground again. Can you take us through this, Gary? Because this part blows my mind.
It's wild, man. It is unbelievable. So I don't have an ankle or a calf, right? With my other leg, as soon as my heel hits the ground, it fires my patella tendon, which holds me up, right? Well, on my left side, how do I fire my patella tendon? Well, I found out that if I flex my quad, that fires that patella tendon, and that's what holds me up. So it took a while to figure that out, but every step that I took, I had to tell myself, flex your quad, flex your quad, flex your quad. So I'm walking down, the hall in my house, and I'm like, okay, flex your quad, good, flex your quad. And then I'm distracted. I don't tell myself to flex my quad, and guess what? My knee hyperextends, and I'm on the ground. Like, it is unbelievable how many hours a day or weeks I'm literally just walking through my house, telling myself, flex your quad, flex your quad, flex your quad. It was is unbelievable. It's really indescribable. But I got there, built that muscle memory. It took a long time. I still, to this day, it does buckle on me from time to time, but it's there, and I learned how to walk and run, and so things are going good now. But man, those first few months were rough, man.
So Gary, I'm the king of bad transitions, right? And so I'm going to transition right quick, because I was, the other day I was in my office and I was dealing with some PDFs, and I was trying, they had like 37 pages in this PDF, but I was trying to get it down to about 10 and just choose the specific images. I didn't realize how to do this. I didn't know how to do it. I was frustrated. When you get frustrated with technology, then my wife walks in. She's so nice. My wife is so awesome and just trying to help out. She's like, have you tried this? And I was like, yes. And then as she asked me more and more questions, I got madder and madder until a point where she was like, I'm going to go to the beach. You go ahead and work on this. And she gave me the answer walking out very quick. And then it solved everything. And then I felt like a complete jerk, right? Because I was getting mad at my wife this whole time. Yeah. Can you take us, you know where I'm going with this, because you're not only having to be a dad, a firefighter, a superhero, but you're also having to be a loving husband while telling your patella tendon to fire. Can you give us a specific when you maybe took it to that level and maybe got angry, and what you had to deal with during that time?
Yeah, I mean, there was this one time, I could laugh about it now, and I could laugh about it then, not right away, but shortly after. I remember being real frustrated with my leg, and it just wasn't working for me that day. And so I just took it off. I took it off and I started hopping around. I was hopping around the house. I was trying to be productive. So I was in the laundry room, and just so happened to be that's when our kids came home from school. And so they walk in, I'm in the laundry room. I come out of the laundry room and I start hopping back to the couch. And my son, and I was really frustrated that day. And my son was like, is this what you do all day? Just hop around the house? And, it just struck a chord. And I was just like, I looked at him like, who do you think you are? And so then it didn't take long, but I was like, actually, yes, this is what I have to do, man. He's like, oh, yeah, I guess so. But I was frustrated, and, luckily I didn't say anything or do anything to him. But yeah, that mental side of just being frustrated with where I was at the time, it's pretty tough, but like I said, once I had that mind shift of really turning anything, positive, I really tried to have some grace and mercy on people, because people don't know amputees. They don't know a lot of us. They don't see a lot of us. Most of us, unfortunately stay in the house for whatever reason. And so things come out of people's mouths that you would not believe. And it can be very insulting if you take it that way. But, if you have a good perspective and attitude, you can kind of turn it around and educate them a little bit sometimes. So
what's the thing, Gary, what's the thing that a person shouldn't say to an amputee?
Honestly, hey, how'd you lose your leg? Okay. To most people, we're curious, right? And so, and we just sometimes just blurt things out, and we don't really think about the answer, because sometimes, depending on who asks me that, and I'll kind of turn around on them a little bit, and I'll answer their question with a question, and I'll say, how do you think I lost my leg? And it kind of stuns them a little bit, and they have to think at that point. And they're like, okay, do I say you were blown up? Do I say you were in a horrible car accident? Like, what do I say? Because then it makes them start thinking, oh, okay, I just asked you about the potentially worst day of your life. Maybe you lost loved ones at the same time. And so I'm about to bring up possibly some PTSD and all these kinds of things. And so, I'll catch them sometimes. I'll say, for me, it was, a knee surgery gone wrong, but not every amputee has that situation. And so I educate them a little bit, and we talk it through, and then I'm able to share my story and really kind of spin it for them. But I think they get the point.
Well, I think it's incredible. Not only, I mean, in your situation, you going back into firefighting and continuing on and performing at a high level, and then American Ninja Warrior. We're going to get to that here in a second. But what does the spouse of a firefighter and of an amputee? I mean, well, I have firefighter wives that are friends, right? So we understand. But there's a lot of things that a firefighter spouse goes through that the rest of the world doesn't understand. Can you take us inside on that?
Yeah, I mean, we see a lot of really horrible things, right? We see a lot of death. We see bodies mangled. Kids are really tough going through some of that. We see heart attack, strokes. We see families that are devastated. Unfortunately, we see the worst of the worst. And so we're getting better, firefighters, and police officers. We're getting better about talking about the call. When we get back to the station, I mean, when we're on the call, we're working, we're not thinking about anything. But once we get back to the station, the captains are really good about saying, okay, let's just kind of hash it out. What did we see? What did we smell? What did we feel? What did we hear? And we just kind of talk about it a little bit and just kind of, get it out. And so we're getting better at that. But before that, a lot of us will come home and some of us will talk to our spouses and some of us won't. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but our spouses can catch some of that stuff. And so they're our therapists in some ways, and in other ways they help us. Their heart is bigger than ours. We carry a big burden on our shoulders, but they carry a big one in their heart. And they, unfortunately, I think some of them catch the brunt of some of that. But we love them so much, and we're super grateful for our spouses.
Let's talk children's books.
Yeah, man. So, going through after my amputation, it was 10 months and 6 days. But who's counting, right? 10 months and 6 days later, I'm back on the fire truck, full duty, no restrictions, man. It was amazing. And so that whole process of learning how to pull hose and climb ladders and stand on roofs, I had to adapt and change everything that I did. Like standing on a roof, I had to figure out which one was my balance foot and which one was my support, and I had to change everything I did, and then I had to overcome this major physical challenge, and then I found out that the mental challenge was way harder. So that became my motto. That became my mantra. This A&O is all about adapt and overcome. And once I got back on the job, I really started wearing this logo, and my buddies, they started wearing it. And once I got back on the job, I made the news, of course. And so some teachers started reaching out to me, and they're like, hey, Gary, would you mind coming to my classroom and just talking to my kids about overcoming obstacles, overcoming adversity and challenges? And I thought, absolutely. And so I started going to classroom by classroom and just talking about mental strength and overcoming challenges in life. And I really fell in love with it. I fell in love with sharing my story and encouraging and inspiring kids to just dream big and don't let anything stop you. And that kind of spun into the children's books. I thought, how can I get this message of hope and perseverance and grit out to the masses? And so it was laid on my heart to write a children's book. And so that's where Fisher's accident comes in. And this is going to blow your mind, but it's about a firefighter who gets hurt on the job. And guess what? He loses his leg. But with the help of his friends, he's able to walk again and run again and train, and gets back on the job as an amputee firefighter. And I thought that was it. I thought that's all I was going to do, is write this book and then kind of take it to schools. Well, then another book was laid on my heart, and that was, Fisher needs to find a friend. He needs to find a pet of some kind. And so that turned into the second book, Fisher Finds a Friend. And he's working a car accident in front of the animal shelter, and there's a little puppy in there, looks all sad. So, of course, he goes in to see why she's so sad, and she stands up, and she only has 3 legs. And so nobody wants to take her home. She's going to be too much work. And so Fisher is like, no, I got you. I'm going to adopt you and take you home. And he soon realizes that she can do anything a 4-legged dog can do, only better, right? And so next came books 3, 4, and 5, where Fisher and Stitch, they go camping and they go to the circus and they rescue a construction worker. And so it's a 5-book series. I love it. I've gotten a lot of good feedback from it. But the purpose behind these books is really twofold. One is I want people to see these characters that look a little different than your normal superheroes, right? And so they just they're amputees, but I don't really address it, right? They're just living these great lives, and they just are missing a leg here or there, right? Mm-hmm. And then the second part of that is I want to take this shock factor away from kids. So early on, I've noticed that when I was walking around the grocery store or the ball game, kids would see me walk by and they're like, the jaw drops and they're pointing and whispering and even saying stuff. And I thought, okay, that's okay for me because of my attitude and perspective, but most amputees will find that, pretty tough, right? So I thought, how can I take that shock factor away from kids? And so put it in the book. Now they can read about an amputee who's a firefighter, and when they see one in public, they can say, oh, look, they're just like Fisher, and just keep it moving. And there's no awkwardness. It's just normal. I'm trying to normalize our differences, right? Our differences are what make us human. And I feel like, these books help start a conversation with kids about different types of adversity and how we all look different. And we just need to love everyone. And just, it's been real exciting, man. It's been real exciting.
So Gary, whenever I meet somebody who has, the type of grit that you have, the type of fortitude, with that mentality of the adapt and overcome, most of the time, as you alluded to earlier, it comes from early traumas, right? And, when we have those things, they build the grit, right? Yeah. And then we get out of it and we almost want to say, like, I want to be able to create a life for my kids that they'll never experience those things. But a lot of times we're missing the fact that the grit is what got us to be able to do and enjoy the things that we're doing. How do you balance that? Or how do you deal with that? Because now with the super positive dad who's loving his wife, who's most likely not living in a mobile home park and most likely has heat and most likely has air conditioning. You do like the cowboy, so that's a hit against you. But when you do have that, how do you start to produce grit in the next generation so they'll be prepared for the adversity that comes?
Absolutely. We talk about all the different ways that people face adversity through life. And I've talked to my kids ever since day one of this, is that this is my challenge. Okay. Mine is very visible. Others are too, but there's a lot of people that go through this mental challenge that you can't see, but we are all going through some type of adversity, and you will too. Your kids, my kids, everyone will go through it, whether it's COVID or cancer or having to move away from your friends or losing a job. There's all these different types of adversity and challenges that you will face. And so you have to decide right now how you are going to respond to that before that hits you, before that comes into your life, because you can't always control what happens to you, in this world, but you can absolutely control how you respond to that, right? We all face adversity, but how you respond to that adversity really determines your character. And so we talk about all these different types of challenges that other people will face and that maybe we haven't faced them yet, or maybe we will, how we're going to respond to that. And I really think just opening up that conversation and being open and honest with these kids is the best way to go. And I've found that to be true with my own kids and even total strangers message me all the time. It is unbelievable, from all over the world, about different challenges that they're facing. It's not just amputees. People have written me and said that they've quit smoking, they've quit drinking, they've started working out, they've walked around the block. It's the first time they've gotten out of the house in a month. It's like, wow, this is unbelievable, because I'm just opening up this conversation. I'm just trying to be this example to my kids, first and foremost. But social media has opened it up to the world, and so it's really rewarding, Kelly. Honestly, it's really, really cool.
When's the last time that your kids humbled you? I'll give you an example. Last night, I was so excited. My son was getting ready for his orientation at 6th grade, Maddox. And I walked in. I was like, what fit you got? And he showed me his fit. He was all ready, And I looked at his shirt, and I was like, 1993. That's when I graduated high school, and I was like, wanted to high five him, and he looked at me. He was like, "But you didn't graduate college." And then he was like, "Oh," and I just walked away, and I was like, "Man, that little joker." When's the last time that your kids like called you out on something or humbled you at the highest level?
Man, it's different now, a little bit different now. Physically, I dominated these kids, right, up until this happened, and so. My youngest son, he just turned 15. He actually 3 days ago just dunked a basketball for the first time. So that was pretty awesome. He's the same kid that, if I'm sitting around, we kind of banter a little bit back and forth. And if I have my leg off watching a show or something, he'll grab that leg and go put it in the other room and say, "Good luck." But we give it to each other pretty good, but he's the one that puts me in my place for sure.
How about with your wife? Because our wives have a tendency to be able to, gracefully humble us. When specifically is the last time that you got humbled by your wife?
Yeah. My wife is pretty amazing, so she doesn't try to give me too much humble pie too often. But let's see, I would say we were actually playing basketball yesterday up at the school, and I was feeling pretty good, feeling a little froggy. I can't quite jump as high as I used to, but so I'm trying to develop my shot a little bit better. And so I was trying to make some free throws, and she came over, and she hasn't played for a while, but she played a little college ball, and my son threw her the basketball, and she just kind of looked at me and flicked it up there, nothing but net, and just looked back at me and walked away. So you don't have to say anything sometimes to get a little humble pie.
Yes.
But that's the most recent.
So Gary, talk to me too about we're going into the American Ninja Warrior. You're in the finals. Am I correct?
I did not make it to the finals.
You didn't make it to the finals. No. But you're doing the watch party tonight.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the things that you went through early on that maybe you were mad at when you were a kid, that prepared you to be able to compete at that high level.
Yeah. So, this it's unbelievable too. I made it through the semifinal, to the semifinals as an amputee, which is first time history, which was unbelievable experience, man. But yeah, looking back, honestly, as much as I, didn't care for my brother, beating me up all the time and sitting on me and beating me at sports, like, that's where I found my grit. That's where I found my competitiveness. That's where I figured out who I was and what I wanted to be someday, is the fact that he was there, always pushing me, never letting up, never letting me win ever. That's what I would say. I would get so mad, and I would go to my mom and I'd be crying, and even when he didn't sit on me, I would still say, "He sat on me." And so he'd get in trouble, and then he'd beat me up later. But I would say that's where it all started, was the fact that, I just did not like to lose, and I just was not going to beat him until I got older. But that's where it all started, man. It's just my older brother. I give him 100% props for it.
So when you go into this the American Ninja Warrior part, and that creates a lot of notoriety. These things don't always turn out well. When we're watching reality TV, and I'm not just talking about the competition, but I'm talking about the aftermath. Because back in the day, like I was just watching the American Gladiators documentary, which was awesome and awful all at the same time. But that was before social media. It was before media happened so fast. You had to wait for the paper to come out. But nowadays it's instantaneous. And a lot of times people are built up to then be broken down. How or did you intentionally protect your family when you go into the limelight, especially on a national and global scale, the way that you have been?
Yeah. So perspective, attitude, purpose, that all goes into this, man. I'm super competitive, and so I really wanted a buzzer. And last year was my first time on the show. And, going into it, I thought, okay, I really want a buzzer, but really I want to get up on this big stage in front of the world and say, okay, we can do hard things. As long as we don't give up on ourselves, as long as we don't quit, we can do this. So I wanted to show people that, yes, I'm an amputee and I might fall on the very first obstacle, but guess what? I am here. I am at the very first obstacle of American Ninja Warrior. And so that was my purpose, was to get up there. And if I fell, I fell. But I really wanted that buzzer. And so my son was there with me, and I made it all the way to the third obstacle last year, the log runner. And I was hanging on. I fell, but I was hanging on to that log. And just something in me thought, no, I'm not giving up. And so I was able to throw my legs back and catch that log behind me. And I wanted to push myself up, and I pushed off of that log, and I was like, I am not quitting. And then all the energy just fell out. That was all I had. And I fell in the water, and I was so mad. I was so frustrated. I thought, no, this is my chance to hit a buzzer and show my kids that we can do it. And, that quickly washed over me in more ways than one. And I realized when I popped out of the water that my son was smiling, and he was just so happy to see me out there. And so I quickly remembered what my purpose for being out there was, and that was to show him that we can do hard things, we can adapt and overcome, and whatever challenge or obstacle comes our way. But I was a little bit worried about the fallout. I wasn't sure how friends at his school would treat him and things like that. And myself personally, the guys at work, firefighters can be pretty tough on each other, right? And so it was good. It was, very encouraging for me. Everybody was pretty inspired by it, which was awesome. And then I had my chance this year, a little bit of redemption, going back on the show, and I thought, there's no way I'll be facing that log runner again. And so I got there that night and went through the first obstacle and pole, and the second obstacle, roller coaster, and then that third obstacle again was the log runner. And I thought, no way, why would they do this to me? And because there's different nights they could have put me on, and sure enough, that log runner is there. And so I was upset, frustrated, and then I soon was like, no, I'm going to beat it this year. I'm going to beat it. And so for a couple hours, I'm in the parking lot, just practicing jumping on the, from like parking spot to parking spot, trying to get that timing down. And I get up there on it, and it's going great. I get to that third log, and then, just the way it is, my foot didn't hit where I thought it was supposed to, and boom, I hit that fourth log again. And frustration really settled in on me again, and I was mad. But I was still on top of the log. I thought, no, okay, focus. I'm gonna get through this, and I was able to sit there for longer than I wanted to, but I was just trying to figure this thing out. And I was able to basically do a flying burpee somehow, and got my foot on there and cleared that obstacle, which was absolutely amazing. I was pretty excited. And ended up falling on the next obstacle. But because I got through that log runner, that's what put me in that 12th spot because they took the top 12 out of 30 to the semifinals. And, just as excited as I was to land that 12th spot and move on to the semifinals, the producer let me know that this year they threw a little curveball into everyone and said, actually, they're going to take the number 12 and the number 13 spot, and you guys are going to race each other to claim that 12th spot. So again, I'm like, you guys are killing me. Like, I'm literally the first amputee to make it to the semifinals, and you're like, nope, not yet. You still have to fight for it. And so that's what we do. I'm a firefighter. We fight for our families. We fight for ourselves. We fight for our communities. And I was a fighter. I'm like, I'm going to fight this. I'm going to beat this person, whoever it is. And, fortunately he ended up being a 26-year-old guy from, was in the Army. I'm just like, great. Oh man, just another major challenge, man. I'm just like, why do I keep getting hit with these crazy obstacles, these crazy challenges? And but I thought, no, he's not going to beat me. I'm going to beat him. I don't care how I have to do it, what I have to do. I'm going to beat him. And I just got laser focused. I thought, I'm doing it. And we started racing. And second obstacle, he fell. And I thought, okay, this is my chance. I just have to get through this obstacle. And now I'm in the semis. And sure enough, I was able to fight and make it through that obstacle, and I was super excited and to make it to the semifinals, man. But it takes everything inside of you, and I've realized that through this whole journey that we have so much power inside of us. The human spirit is so strong, Kelly. Like, we just have to tap into that and find your purpose and couple that with your passion, and you can literally do anything you set your mind to. Like you can literally make the impossible possible. I am living proof of that. And you just have to have a big enough why, and dig down deep and find it and just make it happen. And I really feel like I was able to tap into that and do that and move forward. And I'm just super excited. Of course, the next round I faced Daniel Gill, who's the icon of American Ninja Warrior. But again, I had an opportunity, man. I had a chance to make it to the finals in Vegas because we started the race and he took off and he fell. And I saw him fall and I was like, holy cow, I have a chance. And I was like, okay, I just need to get on this obstacle. Boom, boom, save my arms, get on, get off. And I did that, and my hand slipped, and I got going a little bit too fast, and I fell. So frustrated, like I blew this amazing opportunity. So I was pretty bummed for a while. But perspective, man, I realized all these things are happening for a reason. All these things, there's purpose behind it. And so whatever it is, I'm going to use it. To try and help people find their purpose in life and let them know that I am just being me, finding my purpose, hopefully can inspire them, encourage them, and really make an impact in this world and encourage them to do the same, man. And so Ninja Warrior has put me on that, give me that spotlight, and they've done a really good job, supporting me and encouraging me. And because like you said, it doesn't always go that way. It could have gone a totally different route, but I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be on the show.
So what things did you prepare to? Because nowadays, you have this, let's call it, yours is longer than 15 seconds, but it's just the cliche. You have the 15 seconds in the spotlight, right? Were you and your wife thinking about how can we capitalize on this and how can we keep the tail a little bit longer as opposed to just that crazy arc that you see most people? They go in, they have national exposure, and they have an opportunity during that time, and then bang, it just drops off. How or was there anything that you guys put in play that you said, like, this is what I want to do brand wise for me moving forward with my business, with my purpose and my passion? What things were you putting like that in place?
Yeah. So one thing with the A&O, this adapt and overcome, mindset, I developed kind of my own adapt and overcome manifesto, if you will, right? And so it was like, okay, I've done that, but how did I do that? How did I accomplish those things? And we realized, okay, it's not me, it's God. We really believe that, we're here for a reason and a purpose. And I thought, okay, well, how can I teach that to someone else? How can I show them, not just be this inspiring person that does all these great things and then they go back to sitting on the couch? Like, how can I give them those skills and say, okay, you can too in your own life, set a goal, whatever that is for you, if you're an athlete or an entrepreneur or just someone who's wanting to get off the couch, just set a goal. I thought, okay, what did I do during this time of adapting and overcoming? And it was, for me, it was finding, really acknowledging your emotions, right? It's okay to get mad, get frustrated. Like, those are human emotions, just don't stay in it for very long, and really define who you are as a person, and what is your why? Like, what is your reason? What, is it your family? What is it that drives you? And find a tribe, find people that are going to support you and that you can support at the same time. At that point, once you got your tribe, it's all about setting that goal, making a plan, and then executing. And so that's something that we've been formulating and trying to teach people and show people, yeah, you can use this manifesto in every part of your life, whether it's socially, spiritually, intelligence, whatever it is, that's different areas of your life. You can take these same skills and apply it. And I thought, okay, we can do that. We can build some mental strength. We can build some confidence. And so that's kind of where we're going with this. And one thing kind of leads into another, and it's been quite a ride. It's been amazing. We just we pray a lot, and we really feel like God is leading us, in this direction.
What do you say to the person though that, says, I mean, this sounds amazing, Gary, like the manifesto, all those things, the setting a goal, getting a tribe, doing the things. But Gary is a superhero. Gary has a gene in him. And Gary has a gene in him that is that get up and go. And you even heard it from the time in the trailer park, right? And those kind of things. So what I notice, and again, not being a contrarian in it, but what do you say to the person that's like, you know what, Gary, that sounds really, really good, man. But you don't know my story, the aspect of it. And two, what we've talked about with with a couple of my buddies is, okay, if I wanted yellow cake, right? And I want the exact yellow cake that I ate before, they have to have all the ingredients in there. A lot of the people that you're talking to don't have the ingredients and the grit that you have inside. So how do you, what do you say to that person that says, I mean, Gary, you do have a different gear than most people have, man. I mean, at 5'10" to be able to dunk a basketball, that's not something you learn.
No, okay, so maybe not everyone has the physical abilities that I have, but we all have different gifts. We all have different abilities. We all have different talents that we're born with. So to that person, I would meet them where they are, and I tell them, your life is different than mine. My success looks different than yours. Just because you see me doing American Ninja Warrior doesn't mean you have to be doing American Ninja Warrior to be successful. That is not the plan for you. But there is a plan for you. There is a purpose for you. You just have to find it yourself. And I'm happy to help you find that. But don't rate your success based on my life. We're all different. We all have our own path.
Well, I think that's great, Gary, because there's so many times where someone will experience success in a certain area and then they create the formula, but they're selling hope to the person. They're not selling the actual result because most of the people won't turn out that way, because of the intrinsic parts that they're not talking about. But I love that part. Where did you learn that from? Because that's some next level. And when I said you have another gear, you just proved it again, Gary, right? You just proved it again in an empathy sense, because there are a lot of times and I'm saying, like, there's a lot of times where I lack empathy, when a person comes to me and they're like, hey, I want this. And I'm thinking, like, well, if you do this, this, and this, then it'll happen. But you're not willing to do all those things. So you're not going to get it. But
Right.
you're coming from a different realm. Where have you developed that empathy, and how, I mean, we all want it. So can you bottle it and send it out to us for $19.99?
Yeah, right. Sure, of course. I think, like I said, once you kind of start down this path of serving others and really taking yourself out of the equation, for me, I realized a lot of this is bigger than me. It's not about me. The things that I'm doing, honestly, it's about others. It's about building them up and showing them kind of the way of this perspective, this attitude, that where did I learn it from? I can't tell you specifically, but I will tell you that I try to be the best that I can in all areas of my life. And I don't take 1 second of my life for granted. I am always on the go. I'm always working, serving, helping, doing what I can for other people. And I just don't sleep much. But if you have that mindset and put your heart into really serving others, I think everything kind of takes care of itself, and you learn things, you grow. I work on different areas of my life, physical, obviously I work on, but I like to read books. That was here recently too. You asked my wife, I was never a big reader, but now I am, because I think I really, having this amputation, having this tragedy happen in my life, really opened my eyes to how short life can be. And I don't want to waste 1 second. I want to make the most of it and the best of it. And for whatever reason, I want to encourage and lift others up. And I think as they get lifted, then others will get lifted. And it's just this whole circle, this whole energy, where we are all in this thing called life together. And the more I throw out there, and the more comes back to me. And that's not why I do it, but that's kind of what I'm finding through all of this, man. It's been an amazing journey.
Gary, here's another bad transition. I was talking with a young guy, and he just got married. And he was so excited. He's talked about this and that. And he came over, saw the kids. And, I have 2 children, Maddox and McKenna. And I looked at him and I grabbed him. And it was almost like I was sending out a distress signal. This was early into kids. And I grabbed my friend and I looked at him and I was like, go and have ice cream, like randomly with your wife as often as possible. And I was like, and then he's like, yeah, he kind of looked at me weird. And then I pulled him even closer and I was like, go to the movies with no plan. Because once you have kids, it ain't going to happen that way. You're going to have to plan for like 4 hours. Then you're going to take them to ice cream. Then they're not going to like the type of ice cream. And then you're going to have to go all these different places. And I'm like, while you have that time, Gary, what would you say to a person that hasn't experienced an amputation that you now realize since you have?
Yeah. Our lives, we all have these like defining moments in our lives where we can look back and say, because I made this decision, my life went this direction. Or because I made this decision, my life went that direction. And so if you're not having a major event in your life, I would tell that person, make one. Make today, this is your defining moment. Right here, right now, whatever it is, wherever you're at in the world, make today, make me your defining moment that says today is the day you change. So what do you want to be? What do you want to accomplish? What are your dreams? What are your goals? And no matter what that is, this is your defining moment, and go make that happen. That is what I would tell someone who hasn't had some major tragedy, some major life event that they can kind of look back on and say, this changed my life. Make it happen. Make today, this is a life-changing moment for you. Just make it happen. You have to decide. We all get to choose. We all have this decision to make, and it's up to us individually to make that decision. So do it today. This is your defining moment. What do you want to accomplish in life right now? Make it happen.
Gary, I mean, you've accomplished more in your short life than most people have in 5 lifetimes. You wanted to be a firefighter. You went after it. You know, you wanted to do American Ninja Warrior. You're in the semifinals. You wanted to have children. You had 4 and 5 years. I mean, that's unbelievable, man.
Absolutely.
What do you say to a person, though, that says, Gary, I hear you, man. I'm feeling it. My heart is beating right now. You're inspiring me. But, Gary, you don't understand. I got bills. I got this. I got that. And I really would like to be an author, or I'd like to be a speaker, or maybe I'd like to do this different type of job. But you don't just understand right now, Gary. I've got to do these things. What do you say to that person?
Man. Okay. So you have a mason jar. Okay. Take 5 big rocks. What are the five most important things to you in your life? What are your priorities? Right. And so, those are your rocks. Those are the things that mean the most to you. Okay. And then you have another jar full of sand. All right. All the things that aren't important to you. That, going, doing things that do not focus on your goal. All right. So what you want to do is take that sand, the things that aren't going to get you where you want to be, and start pouring that into the mason jar and fill it up. Okay. Now you've got these 5 rocks. Okay. These are the 5 things that are important to you. Now try and jam those things into that mason jar that's already full of sand. Guess what? It's not going to happen. You have to fill this jar with these 5 rocks first. Okay. These are your priorities. These are the things that it's going to get you where you want to be. Then you take this other jar of things that are less important, and then of the little sand granules, and then you pour that in. And then guess what? That fills in all around your big rocks, and your jar is full. And guess what? You will have accomplished filling this jar with the 5 big rocks, all your priorities, and all these little things fill in the gaps. But you have to have your priorities set to begin with. And so make priorities and write it down. Like, those are the things that are going to get you where you want to be. That's what I would tell them.
So, Gary, I started the podcast because of my 2 kids, Maddox and McKenna. Maddox just went to orientation at 6th grade. He got out the truck while we were in the line. I didn't even drive up, but in the line, he was like, I got it, Dad. He hopped out, ran through traffic, didn't even look back. I was crying, like blubbering. I was calling my wife. I tried to call my brother, but if you're watching, Rob, you didn't answer. So I was trying. I was all emotional, and my big brother didn't answer. I'm going to give you a hard time, Rob.
Nice.
But Maddox, who's 11 years old, about to be 12. McKenna, who's 14 years old, about to go to high school.
Yeah.
I made the podcast because of those 2 individuals, because I didn't want them to worship idols. I wanted them to be inspired by icons like yourself. So what advice would you have for Maddox and McKenna? And if you could use both their names and refer to yourself as Uncle Gary.
Uncle Gary. Gotcha. Maddox and McKenna. This is your Uncle Gary, right? American Ninja Warrior, Firefighter, Amputee, but I'm just your Uncle Gary. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you put your family first, okay, trust God, and use the abilities and gifts that you've been given, okay, they're different than every other single person on this planet. You have your own unique talents and gifts that you've been given. Take the passion that is inside of you, okay, and couple that with those gifts. Use that to serve other people, and you will find joy in this world that you will not experience doing anything else. So go after your dreams using your gifts and your passion.
Gary, you have been absolutely phenomenal, man. One more question for you is just if I was replaced, right? So you take me out, and then you replace the guy in front of the microphone, however you want to picture him, as God, right? And so God shows up. He's got the microphone. He's got the headphones on. My God right now looks like Morgan Freeman because he sounds like Morgan Freeman too. That's what I would think in my head. Yeah. But God sits down behind the mic. He has the headphones on. You got the opportunity to ask him one question. He has to answer you directly. What is that question?
am I fulfilling my purpose?
I would say yes. I think all of us that have listened to this right now and have experienced you, whether it be social media, American Ninja Warrior, been around your family, been around your kids, anything like that, we would all say emphatically, we're all going to step in right now, Gary, and say absolutely 100%. You are in line with your purpose and you're doing exactly what you're put on this earth to do, man. I want to speak life into you. You're an absolute genius, man. And I just want to thank you so much for being on the show, man.
Thank you. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
It has been an absolute pleasure. Every one of you out there, you're going to, in the bio, you're going to see where all of Gary's social media is, Gary Weiland, and the link to Adapt and Overcome, the apparel site also, and GaryWeiland.com. I want to thank everyone out there that's been listening, watching, and sharing, and helping us to get in the top 1% globally as far as all podcasts. I want to thank all of our sponsors, Mr. Chris Nagel, Findlay Volvo Cars of Las Vegas, Poppington's Cardenas Law Group, even though, Rob, you didn't answer the phone when I called you when I was crying when my son went to 6th grade for the first time today. You did call me back, but I was hoping that I would be able to talk to my big brother at that time. I'll forgive you. I love you more than anything, and you're my hero. But I want to thank you again. If you're watching, subscribe on YouTube because my son thinks I'm cooler. And Mr. Gary, I'm going to ask you. I want to have another episode with you because I think you're an absolute genius. I love to be able to see it. You guys have to check out the books. There's more coming. This man is. There's nothing that he doesn't do. That's why it makes me feel bad to be his friend because you can be an author, you can be a speaker, you could be a firefighter, American Ninja Warrior, a husband, a dad, all those things, and he does them at the highest level. So, Gary, my hat's off to you. You're an incredible human being.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
And you're officially off the hot seat.
Awesome.